fucking up the city, I can't too. Hey, hey. What you doing?
All right, what's up, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Defining Destiny, where we are all about forming opinions aligned with growth. Today, we're going to be discussing urban planning, green spaces such as parks, recreational areas, and the Black community. So, as the Black community, we face negative influences such as widespread discrimination, mass incarceration, concentration of poverty, poor housing quality. And now that we are attacking impulsive injustices at the root, it is time to construct a plan for us for our communities to be able to prosper. So today we have Dee Powell, who has her master's in city and regional planning, here to talk with us about this plan that we need to focus on. So Dee, traditional planning of urban communities typically consists of unhealthy food options, pedestrian walkways that are not conducive to an active lifestyle, and limited accessibility to well-maintained parks. And when I say well-maintained, I mean they actually have working street lights, they're clean, there's security after a certain hour, and kids actually want to go and, use these spaces. So how can we adapt our lifestyle to environments that may not have the accessibilities to these spaces?
So for us, adapting is kind of the hardest part right now, for the fact that most communities that are Black and brown, low income, don't know how. They don't know. I mean, they know that they're not in the most, ideal situation. They know They don't have sidewalks, but it's more so how does the community adapt to the demographic?
Right.
How can a community put in better structure? How can they, dial in on what that area is? Most low income have a lot of people that use some type of public transportation, wheelchair accessibility. So
right.
Designing sidewalks and things like that take a little bit more time as far as how it's going to accommodate that community.
Yeah, so it's all about being intentional about your space and where you are and the environment that you're in, and also not submitting to those boxes just because you may not have that sidewalk that is conducive for being active. You can find a space to get a workout in or try to be fit. So that moves into the next thing I wanted to say. A major difference between prosperous Black communities and those that are struggling are equal opportunities for employment as well as quality housing. What can we as citizens do to elect city officials that can change that cycle of having environments that aren't conducive for that?
I think it's going into it with an open mind. A lot of citizens hear apartments and they're instantly like, nah, not having it. And that's a big deterrent for people that are our age. We make decent money, we do decent things, the creative kind of class. So apartments for us may be more feasible than trying to do live in a house.
Right.
Have to maintain a yard, that kind of thing. So apartments have always had this negative connotation. It's really relearning, reprogramming yourself. And so when you reprogram yourself, then you know what to ask for your city official. So now that I'm thinking on the positive side, okay, now I can ask, okay, are we going to get more apartments that may be luxury style and mixed income?
Yeah.
Are we going to have townhomes that are about the same? Are we having people that are coming in just saying they're going to bring jobs, or are they bringing jobs but they're bringing people in from wherever their headquarters are or whatever? So
yeah.
I think as a community, as a city, especially as Black people, you have to learn what you're asking for. It's kind of like when you ask your parents for something and they ask you all these follow-up questions, and you're like, I wasn't ready for that. So you just kind of you got to know what you want before you just jump in and demand all these things.
Yeah, and talking about knowing what you want, a staggering statistic I came across is that only 10% of urban planners are actually Black. So we have to take it upon ourselves to get to these local offices and actually vote to put people in office and city governments that can help us change the cycle of this environment. We need Black people in urban planning, more Black people to come into city planning, so we can get these environments up to date. And speaking on apartments and things like that, I completely agree. Home ownership is not always the way initially, but it is important for us to own our own homes. Speaking on the city officials, we need people to come in and make attaining these homes a little bit more feasible. So I saw that you were featured in a nice little article on the Beginner's Guide of City Planners to End Racism. We want to talk about that?
So yeah, I didn't even know that I was on it until I went and read it myself. So basically, it's a guide for basically white planners and non-planners, planners that aren't Black. How do we go for, it's like the what's next step, in the sense of what do we do after, the hype kind of dies down, or the protests stop, things like that. Like, what's next?
Right.
So to be featured in that as like a, I guess, prominent Black voice in planning is
prominent.
It's pretty phenomenal. Like you said, the percentage is not a lot of us that are out there that are planners in general, or architects or engineers or anything with green space. So to be in that and kind of show that there's a lot of us all over the 50 states, it's just representation matters. I've been saying that for probably since the day I started graduate school. And if we can expose more people to it and what it really is, and we do our part, I think it entices more people to want to be involved too.
Yeah, so I actually had a chance to take a look at it, and it hits on topics such as like needing officials that are willing to improve avenues of wealth attainment, advancing home ownership, and making the process equitable, not equal, but equitable, because, I have a nice picture that I'm going to drop in here where you can see the difference between the two, and supporting investment in economic development in predominantly African-American neighborhoods. So utilizing inclusionary zoning, which by that I mean we can get a sprouts in low-income communities as well, not just limiting those to affluent neighborhoods. Zoning against the inequitable distribution of hazard sites. Things like that are so crucial and destroying communities that, tend to be full of African Americans. You can drive through and see potholes or construction sites that never actually get wrapped up. So we need to end that cycle, and it starts with getting Black urban planners and just awareness of the topic.
That's the biggest thing, is the awareness of it. Black and white, I think, kind of dialing back to what you said about what to look for.
Yeah.
Just because somebody looks like you doesn't always mean their intentions are as good as what they should be.
Say that.
I came from before I was working in a city that is predominantly Black. City council is mostly Black.
Okay, that's dope.
Mayor's Black, but it's not always what it seems on the cover. You still got, they still need to be educated, because for them, they see the dollar sign, they see they see their city being able to be put on a pedestal, so they kind of forget the demographics and what their constituents really need.
Yeah.
And then tying back to what you said about Sprouts, places like that, Whole Foods are cool. They're great. That's what every community asks for, especially low income, Black and brown. But the reality of people actually going in there and knowing what to buy, how to buy it, and being able to afford it, two totally different avenues. At the end of the day, I think those places are great. They may change their pricing based on the demographic area, but like the co-op thing, the grassroots thing is really where, at least from the grocery store aspect, economic development is how it's really gonna grow in a place that companies can change what their price point is, but most people that are working in low income areas probably can't change their average median household income.
That's true. So that just goes back to having equal employment opportunities. Facts. Where people can gain the funds in order to change their lifestyle.
Facts.
I actually did my master's thesis on urban planning and green space. It was an evaluation of the Fruitvale Development Plan of East Oakland. So I actually looked at air quality, accessibility to parks and green spaces, as well as mobility. So speaking on sidewalks and other ways for people to be active. And Oakland, that's predominantly a Black area, and the government out there is also Black. So, but they struggle. They struggle with money. We have a lot of streets that never get repaved. We have a lot of parks that are not open to kids coming and using them. So I wanted to bring awareness to that as well. So you're completely right. Having a Black government does not make the area better necessarily.
This is true.
Yeah. So all right, Dee, I think that wraps up what I wanted to talk about today. Mm-hmm. So let's check in with Corinne's Crystal Corner. All right, Corinne, what crystals do you have for us today?
Welcome to Corinne's Crystal Corner. The stone for today's segment is Tiger's Eye. Tiger's Eye is a stone of protection, balance, and focus. It assists with problem solving and balancing of the mind and body. It stimulates taking action and helps you to make decisions with discernment. Tiger's Eye is believed to help one remain calm and courageous, stay focused, and persevere. When used in jewelry, the Tiger's Eye may bring good luck and protection from the evil eye to the wearer. It stimulates the sacral and solar plexus chakra.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Defining Destiny, and a special thanks to my guest star, Dee Powell.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, for sure. I guess it's the part where I plug in word.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram at THEDEE_P, and you can check out my blog where kind of all of the things came from for everything that's going on. Black Spaces, BLCKSPCES.com.
All right, yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure that you stay connected for your daily dose of growth.
Woke up like Nike, I got jets on me, I do, ayy, ayy. In the studio, I've been working like a fool, ayy, ayy. I've been married to the money, yeah, I do, ayy, ayy. Say you fucking up the city, I can too, ayy, ayy. What you doing?